The sun hadn't yet broken the horizon when Corporal Evangeline Sutherland opened her eyes on the mat. Blood pooled beneath her cheek, warm and metallic. The fluorescent lights of the training facility buzzed overhead, harsh and unforgiving. Through the haze of pain, she could see boots surrounding her. Black combat boots, polished to regulation shine, standing, watching, waiting. Her vision blurred, doubled, then focused on a single face looming above. Sergeant Garrett Blackwell. His expression wasn't triumph. It was something darker, something satisfied. "Should have stayed behind a desk, Sutherland," he said, voice low enough that only she could hear. "This is what happens when you don't know your place." The world tilted. Darkness closed in from the edges. And in that final moment before unconsciousness took her completely, Evangeline Sutherland heard a voice. Not Blackwell's, not anyone present in that room. Her father's voice, from a memory 10 years buried. A Sutherland never quits. Then nothing. Camp Pendleton sprawled across the California coastline like a small city built for one purpose: war. The Marine Corps base had been forging warriors since 1942, and it showed no signs of softening. The October morning carried the scent of sage and eucalyptus, mixed with diesel fuel and sweat. A peculiar perfume that every Marine recognized instantly. Evangeline Sutherland stepped off the transport bus at 0500, sea bag over her shoulder, eyes forward. 24 years old, 5'7", 135 pounds of muscle earned through years of refusing to accept limitations. Her dark blonde hair was pulled into the tightest regulation bun possible. Her uniform bore no ribbons yet, no decorations, nothing to distinguish her except the intensity in her gray eyes. Those eyes had seen her father's flag-draped coffin lowered into the ground at Arlington National Cemetery when she was 14. She'd sworn an oath over that grave. Silent, personal, the kind of promise that either breaks a person or forges them into something unbreakable. The Recon Selection Course compound sat apart from the main base, deliberately isolated, a collection of utilitarian buildings surrounding an obstacle course that looked designed by someone who genuinely hated human beings. Rope climbs that reached 40 feet, mud pits that went waist deep, walls built too high to scale without perfect technique. And beyond it all, the Pacific Ocean, cold and merciless, waiting. Evangeline set her sea bag down with the others. 51 bags total. 51 Marines who thought they had what it took. 2 of those bags belonged to women. She felt the stares immediately. Not hostile exactly, more like curiosity mixed with skepticism. The kind of look you'd give a house cat trying to join a wolf pack. Most of these men had never trained alongside a woman in a combat role. The Marine Corps had only opened infantry specialties to women in recent years, and Recon remained the most elite, most physically demanding of them all. "Attention on deck!" The voice cracked like a rifle shot. 51 Marines snapped to attention as Gunnery Sergeant Colton Ashford strode into the compound. 36 years old, 6'2", built like he'd been carved from California granite. 2 combat deployments to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan. A Navy Cross for actions he never discussed. The kind of Marine who made other Marines stand straighter without saying a word. "I am Gunnery Sergeant Ashford," he announced, voice carrying across the compound without strain. "For the next 12 weeks, I am God. I am the weather. I am the reason you wake up and the reason you wish you hadn't. Some of you think you're hard. Some of you think you're ready. You're wrong on both counts." He began pacing, hands clasped behind his back. Recon is not about being tough. Any idiot can be tough for a day. Recon is about being intelligent, adaptive, and absolutely unwilling to quit when your body is begging you to. Most of you will fail. Most of you will ring that bell over there and go back to your regular units. There is no shame in that. Recon isn't for everyone. His eyes swept the formation, pausing briefly on Evangeline. No expression, no judgment, just assessment. But if you do quit, Ashford continued, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if you could have made it. That's a heavy weight to carry. Choose wisely. He nodded to someone behind the formation. Master Sergeant Merrick will be observing this cycle as senior advisor. He's forgotten more about combat than most of you will ever learn. Pay attention when he speaks. Evangeline felt rather than saw the man who stepped forward. Master Sergeant Dalton Merrick moved with the economy of motion that only came from decades of military service. 52 years old, but still lean and dangerous. His uniform bore the badges of a career spent in the hardest places, doing the hardest jobs. Gulf War veteran. Multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan in the years that followed. Silver Star, Bronze Star with Valor Device, Purple Heart with 2 clusters, and a scar that ran from his left ear to his collarbone. The kind of scar that came with a story he'd never tell. His eyes found Evangeline in the formation, held for just a moment. Something flickered in that gaze. Recognition? Impossible. She'd never seen this man before in her life. Stone Merrick said nothing, just nodded once and stepped back into the shadows of the training office. Fall out, Ashford barked. Stow your gear. Formation in 10 minutes. We've got a lot of suffering to accomplish today. The barracks assigned to recon candidates were Spartan, even by Marine Corps standards. Metal bunks, footlockers, nothing else. Evangeline chose a rack in the corner, away from the door. Tactical thinking, even in rest. She'd learned that from her uncle, a retired Army Ranger who'd spent 3 years teaching her everything the regular recruiters wouldn't. How to fall properly, how to take a punch, how to deliver one that ended fights immediately. She was stowing her gear when the voice came from behind her. Well, they're really letting anyone try out these days. Evangeline didn't turn, didn't react. She'd learned long ago that bullies fed on reaction like sharks on blood. I'm talking to you, Barbie. This time she did turn, slowly, controlled. Sergeant Garrett Blackwell stood 6 feet away, flanked by 2 other Marines. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of conventional good looks that probably got him by in civilian life. 27 years old, 4 years in the Corps, no combat deployments yet, which explained the chip on his shoulder the size of a Humvee. The man to his left was Corporal Wyatt Caldwell, 26, thinner than Blackwell, but with the wiry strength of someone who'd grown up fighting. His eyes held the vacant loyalty of a true believer who'd found someone to follow. The third man was PFC Decker Vaughn, 23, thick through the shoulders and neck, the kind of man who enjoyed violence a little too much and had found a legal outlet for it in the Marines. Can I help you, Sergeant? Evangeline asked, voice flat. Blackwell smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Just wondering what you're doing here. This ain't a daycare. We don't have time to babysit. I didn't ask for a babysitter. You think you can hack it? You think you can keep up with real Marines? Evangeline held his gaze. Didn't blink. I guess we'll find out. Something flashed in Blackwell's expression. Anger at not getting the reaction he wanted. He stepped closer, invaded her personal space deliberately. Let me tell you how this works, sweetheart. You're gonna wash out. Probably week 2, maybe 3 if you're stubborn. And when you do, I don't want to hear any crying about how it wasn't fair or how we didn't give you a chance. You chose to be here. You chose to play in the deep end. Can't blame anyone but yourself when you drown. Are we done here? Blackwell's jaw tightened. Yeah, we're done. For now. He turned and walked away, his 2 shadows following. Several other Marines had witnessed the exchange. Most looked away quickly, not wanting to get involved. One didn't. A young private first class, maybe 22, approached hesitantly. Don't let Blackwell get to you, he said quietly. He talks big, but he's never even deployed. All bark. What's your name, Marine? PFC Hollis Brennan, Corporal. Well, PFC Brennan, I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't need defending. I can handle Sergeant Blackwell just fine. Brennan nodded, chastened. Roger that, Corporal. Just good luck. He retreated to his own rack. Evangeline finished stowing her gear and sat on her bunk, suddenly exhausted despite the early hour. This was going to be harder than she'd anticipated. Not the physical challenges. She'd trained for those. But the constant testing, the subtle and not so subtle attempts to make her quit before she even started. Her hand went to the chain around her neck, a small metal cross blackened with age, her father's cross, the one he'd worn through 2 tours in Iraq, the one that had been returned to her mother along with his personal effects in a folded flag. Colonel Nathaniel Sutherland had been leading a convoy through Ramadi when the IED detonated. Killed instantly, they'd said. Painless, they'd said. As if that mattered. As if knowing he didn't suffer made the hole he left behind any smaller. Evangeline had been 14, old enough to understand death, too young to understand that level of loss. She'd stood at Arlington in her Sunday dress, holding her mother's hand, watching them lower her father into the ground. 21 rifles firing 3 volleys each, the bugler playing taps, the flag folded with mechanical precision and handed to her mother with the words, "On behalf of the President of the United States and a grateful nation." Her mother had fallen apart slowly after that, took 3 years, started with wine in the evenings, ended with pills and vodka, and a note that said simply, "I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore." Evangeline had been 17, a senior in high school. She'd found her mother in the bathtub, already cold. 2 funerals before her 18th birthday. Her uncle had taken her in, retired Army Ranger, her father's older brother. He'd recognized something in her eyes that day, not grief. Grief would have been normal. This was something else, something harder, purpose. "You want to honor your dad?" he'd asked. "Yes." "Then don't waste your life being angry. Use it, channel it, become something he'd be proud of." She'd enlisted the day after graduating high school, turned down college scholarships, ignored her guidance counselor's protests. The Marines had seemed like the right choice. Her father had been Army, but he'd always spoken of Marines with a particular respect. "The few, the proud, the crazy bastards who run toward the fire," he'd said once, laughing. Boot camp at Paris Island had been exactly as brutal as advertised. Evangeline had thrived. Top of her class in physical fitness, expert marksman, honor graduate. She'd expected to be challenged. Instead, she'd been understimulated. The Fleet Marine Force had been different. Real work, real responsibility. She'd excelled there too, earning her corporal stripes ahead of schedule. But something had been missing. The edge she'd felt at boot camp. The sense of being tested beyond her limits. Then she'd heard about recon. The application process had been rigorous. Physical fitness test scores in the top percentile. Interview with the screening board. Psychological evaluation. She'd passed everything, but barely. The board had been skeptical. Not hostile exactly, just uncertain. "Why recon?" the colonel had asked. "You've got a solid record, good fitness scores. You could have a fine career in logistics, intelligence, any number of fields. Why put yourself through this?" She'd thought about the answer carefully. "Because my father was a warrior," she'd said finally, "and I want to be worthy of his name." The colonel had studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Approved. Good luck, Corporal. You're going to need it." And now here she was, Camp Pendleton, recon selection, surrounded by men who thought she didn't belong. Evangeline stood, straightened her uniform and headed outside. Formation would begin in 5 minutes. She'd be the first one there. Not to show off, but because being early was a habit that kept you alive in combat, and she had every intention of surviving this. The first week of recon selection was designed for one purpose: attrition. Weed out the weak, the uncommitted, the delusional. The instructors accomplished this through a simple formula: maximum physical stress plus minimum rest equals broken spirits. Day 1 began with a physical fitness test, 3 miles in 22 minutes, 100 crunches in 2 minutes, 20 pull-ups. For the men, anyway. Women had different standards, lower standards, a fact that Garrett Blackwell mentioned loudly and often. Evangeline ran the 3 miles in 19 minutes, 40 seconds, did 120 crunches, 15 pull-ups, which was the female max but still 5 short of male requirements. "Good hustle, Corporal," Gunnery Sergeant Ashford said, marking her scores. "But good won't cut it here. You'll need to exceed female standards if you want to earn respect." "Understood, Gunnery Sergeant." He nodded and moved on. Blackwell appeared at her shoulder moments later. 1940? He said, voice dripping false sympathy. "I ran 1803. Guess biology's a bitch, huh?" Evangeline said nothing, grabbed her canteen and hydrated. Blackwell's need for validation through comparison was textbook insecurity. She'd studied psychology as part of her MOS training, recognized the pattern, ignored it. Day 2 brought the obstacle course. 47 obstacles spread across 3 miles of California hell. Rope climbs, wall climbs, cargo nets, monkey bars. A water obstacle that required swimming 25 meters in full utilities. And at the end, a 400-meter sprint to the finish. The course record was 17 minutes, 31 seconds, set by a Force Recon Marine in 2012. Evangeline finished in 24 minutes, 9 seconds. Middle of the pack. Respectable but not exceptional. Blackwell finished in 21:05, made sure everyone knew it. Day 3 was the Rucksack March. 12 miles, 80-pound pack, 3 hours max. Anyone slower than 3 hours failed and was sent home immediately. The California sun climbed toward 100 degrees by 0900. The route took them through sandy trails, up hills that felt like mountains, through vegetation that grabbed at uniforms and cut exposed skin. Evangeline settled into a rhythm. Left foot, right foot, breathe. The pack dug into her shoulders despite proper adjustment. Her hips ached. Her feet screamed. She focused on a point 50 meters ahead and walked toward it. Reached it. Picked another point. Walked toward it. This was mental. All mental. Pain was just information. You could acknowledge it without letting it control you. Mile 6, halfway. 2 Marines had already dropped out, unable to continue. The instructors had collected them in a truck that followed at a distance. The shame truck, the Marines called it. Riding it meant your recon dreams were over. Mile 8. Blackwell was ahead, maybe 200 meters, setting pace with his group. Evangeline could see them talking, laughing even. Bastards weren't even hurting yet. Or maybe they were, and they hid it better. Mile 10. The trail climbed sharply. Evangeline's thighs burned with lactic acid. Her breathing came harsh and ragged, but she didn't slow, couldn't slow. Showing weakness invited predators. She crested the hill and saw something that made her pause. Blackwell was stopped on the side of the trail, 50 meters ahead. His 2 friends, Caldwell and Vaughn, stood watch while Blackwell knelt by his pack and removed something. A rock, easily 20 pounds, maybe more. He'd been cheating, carrying less weight than required. And now, near the end, he was adjusting his pack to regulation in case they checked at the finish line. Evangeline's hands curled into fists. She could report this, should report this. Cheating was grounds for immediate dismissal. But reporting also meant she'd be seen as a snitch, someone who couldn't handle conflict without running to authority. The decision took 3 seconds. She kept walking, said nothing, logged it in memory for potential future use, but didn't act on it now. As she passed Blackwell adjusting his pack, their eyes met. He knew she'd seen. She knew he knew. An understanding passed between them, unspoken but clear. This wasn't over. She finished the march in 2 hours, 47 minutes, 13 minutes under the limit. Her feet were blistered and bleeding inside her boots. Her shoulders had deep red grooves where the pack straps had dug in. She hurt everywhere, and she felt magnificent. Blackwell finished 4 minutes later, making a show of how easy it had been, acting like he could have gone another 12 miles without breaking a sweat. Evangeline watched him from the shade of a transport truck, drinking water in small sips like they'd been taught. She said nothing, but she noticed something else. Master Sergeant Merrick stood on a small rise overlooking the finish area, binoculars in hand. He'd been watching the march, observing, and he'd been watching that exact section of trail where Blackwell had dumped his weight. Merrick lowered the binoculars and looked directly at Evangeline, nodded once. Almost imperceptibly, he knew too. Week 2 brought combat training, hand-to-hand, close-quarters battle. The kind of fighting that saved your life when ammunition ran out, or when silence was more important than firepower. The Marines trained in a building called the Pit, concrete floor covered with worn mats, fluorescent lights, the smell of sweat and blood and disinfectant that never quite covered the sweat and blood. Gunnery Sergeant Ashford paired them off randomly. Size didn't matter in his philosophy. In real combat, you didn't get to choose your opponent. "Corporal Sutherland," he called. "You're with Corporal Caldwell." Wyatt Caldwell was 5'10", maybe 170 pounds, wiry and fast. He grinned as they squared up on the mat. "Try not to cry when I submit you," he said. "Try not to tap out too quickly," Evangeline replied. The whistle blew. Caldwell came in aggressive, trying to use speed to overwhelm. Evangeline gave ground, let him think he was winning, then caught his wrist on an overextended punch. Used his momentum against him. Twisted, step behind, arm bar. Caldwell went down hard, tapping frantically. 3 seconds, start to finish. The pit went quiet. Ashford's whistle shrieked. "Reset, again!" They squared up. This time Caldwell was more cautious. He feinted, tested her defense, found it solid. They grappled for position. Caldwell had the strength advantage, but Evangeline had leverage and technique. She swept his leg, controlled his fall, transitioned to a rear naked choke. Caldwell tapped. 7 seconds. "Enough," Ashford called. "Good technique, Sutherland." "Caldwell, you're telegraphing your strikes. Fix it. Next pair." Evangeline stood and bowed slightly to Caldwell, as tradition required. He ignored her, face red with humiliation, and stalked away. Garrett Blackwell watched from the edge of the mat. His expression had gone cold. "Gunnery Sergeant," he called, "request permission to demonstrate proper technique." Ashford considered. "Against who?" "Corporal Sutherland. If she's going to be here, she should train against someone who'll push her. Caldwell's too light. Let her see what real opposition feels like." The trap was obvious, but declining would be seen as fear. Ashford looked at Evangeline. "Your call, Corporal. You don't have to accept." "I accept," she said immediately. Blackwell smiled. "Let's see what you got, sweetheart." They took positions on the center mat. The other Marines formed a circle, sensing something beyond regular training. This was personal. The whistle blew. Blackwell didn't waste time. He charged, used his size and weight advantage to drive her backward. Evangeline tried to sidestep, but he adjusted, caught her, lifted her completely off the ground, and slammed her down. The air exploded from her lungs. Stars burst in her vision. Blackwell didn't wait for her to recover. He grabbed for an armbar. Evangeline rolled, barely escaped, got to her feet. Round 2. This time she didn't try to match his strength. She circled, made him come to her. When he lunged, she used a judo throw her uncle had drilled into her 10,000 times. Used his momentum against him, sent him flying. Blackwell hit the mat hard but rolled through it, came up angry. "Lucky," he muttered. They closed again, grappled. This was a test of endurance now. Who would tire first? Blackwell was stronger, but Evangeline was more efficient with her energy. She defended, conserved, waited for an opening. It came 30 seconds later. Blackwell overcommitted to a takedown. Evangeline spun inside his guard, caught his arm, hyperextended the elbow joint. Blackwell had two choices: tap out or let her break his arm. He tapped. The pit erupted in shouts and whistles, Marines appreciating good technique regardless of who delivered it. Blackwell stood slowly, face bright red. Evangeline extended her hand, traditional show of respect. He stared at it like it was a snake. Then he smiled, but his eyes promised violence. "Good match," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You've got some skills, Sutherland. Respect." He walked away without shaking her hand. Ashford blew his whistle. "All right, that's enough excitement. Water break. 5 minutes, then we go again." Evangeline found a corner, drank water, tried to slow her racing heart. She'd won the match, but she'd also made an enemy, a dangerous one. Blackwell's ego was now invested in destroying her. PFC Hollis Brennan approached, eyes wide. "That was incredible," he said. "I've never seen anyone take Blackwell down like that." "He's sloppy," Evangeline said. "Relies on strength instead of technique. Anyone with proper training could do what I did." "Still, that took guts. He's gonna come after you now. You know that, right? Let him try." But even as she said it, a cold weight settled in her stomach. She just painted a target on her back, and the next 12 weeks were going to be much harder because of it. Master Sergeant Merrick appeared from the observation room above the pit. He caught her eye, nodded once, the same small nod he'd given at the rucksack march. He was keeping track, building a picture, but of what and why, Evangeline couldn't say. Week 3 ended with qualifications on the rifle range. Every Marine was expected to be an expert marksman. Recon Marines were expected to be better than expert. The course required 40 out of 50 targets hit at ranges from 200 to 500 meters. Different positions, different conditions, timed, stressful. Evangeline had always been good with rifles. Her uncle had started her on a .22 when she was 8, graduated her to an AR-15 at 12. By 16, she could put rounds through the same hole at 100 yards. The Marine Corps had refined that natural talent into something deadly. She settled into position at the 200-yard line, checked her M16A4 rifle, loaded a magazine of 20 rounds, and waited for the command. "Shooters, you may commence firing," Evangeline breathed, settled her natural point of aim, sight picture, sight alignment, trigger press. The rifle bucked. Downrange, a target snapped down, hit. She worked through the course methodically. 200 yards, 300, 400, 500, prone, sitting, kneeling, standing. The positions changed, the fundamentals didn't. Breathe, aim, press, hit. She finished with 48 out of 50, expert qualification. Only 2 Marines shot better. Blackwell wasn't one of them, or he should have been. The night before qualification, someone had tampered with Evangeline's rifle, bent the front sight post just enough to throw off her zero. She'd noticed it during weapons inspection that morning. Took 15 minutes to adjust it back to proper alignment. But she'd noticed, and she'd fixed it. And whoever had sabotaged her weapon was going to be disappointed. After qualification, Gunnery Sergeant Ashford pulled her aside. "Someone's playing games with you, Corporal," he said quietly. "Noticed your rifle was off during pre-qual inspection." "I noticed too, Gunnery Sergeant. I corrected it." "You know who did it?" "I have suspicions, no proof." Ashford nodded slowly. "Listen to me carefully. This course is hard enough without people sabotaging each other. If you catch someone, you report it immediately. I don't care about snitching or unit cohesion or any of that bullshit. Someone putting hands on your weapon is dangerous for everyone. Understand?" "Yes, Gunnery Sergeant." "Good. Now watch your 6. Someone wants you gone badly enough to cheat, they might escalate. Be ready." He walked away. Evangeline stood alone on the now empty range, desert wind blowing sage-scented air across the firing line. She looked at her rifle. Her father had carried a rifle like this through Ramadi, had trusted it with his life, had died anyway. A weapon was only as good as the person holding it and the people around you. Trust was becoming a scarce commodity. Week 4 brought the announcement everyone had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. Hell Week begins in 5 days, Gunnery Sergeant Ashford announced during morning formation. Between now and then, we've got one final exercise: night navigation and tactical movement. You'll be divided into teams of 5. Each team gets a grid coordinate. You navigate to it, establish overwatch, and await further orders. Opposition force will be out there trying to find you. Don't get caught. He began reading off team assignments. Evangeline listened for her name, hoped she'd be paired with competent Marines, maybe even friendly ones. Team 7, Ashford called, Corporal Sutherland, PFC Brennan, Lance Corporal Torres, Private First Class Dixon, Corporal Reese, you're Alpha 2. Not bad. Brennan was solid. She didn't know the others well, but they hadn't caused problems. Could have been worse. Team 9, Ashford continued, Sergeant Blackwell, Corporal Caldwell, PFC Vaughn, Lance Corporal Hicks, Private Wilson, you're Op 4 Team 1. Evangeline's stomach dropped. Op 4, opposition force. Blackwell and his crew would be hunting the other teams. With simunition, paintball-style rounds that hurt like hell, but were supposedly non-lethal. Supposedly. Exercise begins 2200 hours tonight, Ashford finished. Navigation only, no night vision devices, map and compass. Welcome to 1945, Marines. Dismissed. The day dragged. Evangeline checked her gear 3 times. Map, compass, flashlight with red lens, extra batteries, water, protein bars. Her rifle loaded with simunition magazines. The rounds were blue-tipped, easy to distinguish from live ammunition. They'd sting on impact but shouldn't cause serious injury. She tried to eat dinner, but her stomach rejected food. Nerves, anticipation of what was coming. At 2100, teams began assembling at the staging area. Evangeline found her team. PFC Brennan gave her a nervous smile. The others nodded acknowledgement. All right, she said quietly. Here's how we play this. I'll navigate. Brennan, you're rear security. Torres and Dixon, flanks. Reese, you're on point, but I'm calling direction. We move slowly. Sound discipline is critical. Op 4 is going to be aggressive. Our job is to not get caught. Questions? What if we make contact? Torres asked. Evade if possible. Fight only if cornered. Remember, this is training. Nobody needs to be a hero. They nodded. At 2200 hours exactly, trucks dropped each team at different grid coordinates, miles apart. Evangeline's team found themselves in rocky terrain, scrub brush, darkness so complete it felt solid. She pulled out her map, used the red lens flashlight to plot their route. 6 miles to the objective, rough terrain. 4 hours to cover it safely. That gave them a 2-hour buffer before dawn. Let's move, she whispered. They moved like ghosts through the California night. Evangeline navigated by compass bearing and terrain association, reading the land even in darkness. Every 100 meters she stopped, listened, let her eyes adjust, scanned for threats. 2 miles in, no contact. 3 miles, still nothing. 4 miles. The objective was close now. A ridge overlooking a small valley. Perfect overwatch position. That's when Evangeline heard it. Voices. Ahead and to the left. OPFOR team on patrol. She signaled her team to freeze. Go prone. They did, instantly. The voices grew louder. 2, maybe 3 Marines, moving carelessly, talking instead of maintaining silence. Blackwell's team. They passed within 50 meters. Never saw Evangeline's team lying motionless in the brush. After 5 minutes, Evangeline signaled to continue. They reached the objective at 0300, set up security, waited. An hour passed. 2. The sky began to lighten in the east. False dawn. The exercise was nearly over. That's when everything went wrong. The first round hit PFC Dixon in the chest. Not simunition blue, something else, harder. Dixon went down screaming, clutching his ribs. "Contact left," Brennan shouted. More rounds came in. Impact velocity wrong. These weren't simunition rounds. They were rubber bullets. Same caliber, but solid rubber. Non-lethal in theory, but capable of breaking bones, causing serious injury. Someone had switched ammunition. "Withdraw," Evangeline ordered. "Fall back to secondary position." Her team scrambled. Lance Corporal Torres took a round to the thigh. Went down. Evangeline grabbed him, half carried, half dragged him toward cover. The attack was coming from one direction. Organized, deliberate, Blackwell. She got her team to a rocky outcropping, established a defensive position, counted heads. Dixon was hurt, possibly broken ribs. Torres couldn't put weight on his leg. 3 still combat effective. "This is wrong," Brennan said, voice shaking. "Those aren't sim rounds. Someone's going to get killed." Evangeline keyed her radio. "Base, this is Alpha 2. We are under fire with unauthorized ammunition. Requesting immediate recall. I say again, unauthorized ammunition. Marines are injured." Static. No response. She tried again. Nothing. They'd been jammed, or her radio had been sabotaged. Either way, they were on their own. Movement ahead. A single figure emerging from the darkness. Garrett Blackwell, rifle raised. "Stay down, Sutherland," he shouted. "This is what happens when you don't learn your place." He fired. The rubber bullet caught Evangeline in the shoulder. Pain exploded through her entire right side. The impact spun her around. She stumbled but stayed on her feet. "Run," she told her team. "Get to the rally point. I'll hold him." "We're not leaving you," Brennan protested. "That's an order. Go." They went reluctantly, carrying their wounded. Evangeline faced Blackwell alone. He advanced slowly, savoring the moment. Caldwell and Vaughn appeared behind him. 3 on 1. "You just had to push it, didn't you?" Blackwell said. "Had to prove you were as good as us. Had to embarrass me in front of the whole unit. Well, congratulations. You win. This is your prize." He fired again. The round hit Evangeline's stomach. The air left her lungs in a rush. She doubled over, gasping. Blackwell closed the distance, grabbed her by the hair, yanked her head back. "Should have stayed behind a desk," he said. Then he headbutted her. Evangeline's nose exploded in blood and pain. Her vision went white. She tried to counter, to fight, but her body wasn't responding. Training said block. Muscle said move. Neither happened. Blackwell's fist came from somewhere she couldn't track, connected with her temple. The world spun. Her legs gave out. She was falling, knew she was falling, couldn't stop it. Her head struck rock, not dirt, not sand, rock. The impact sounded like something breaking. Darkness surged in from every direction. Evangeline tried to fight it, tried to stay conscious, tried to remember why staying awake was important, but the darkness was stronger. Her last thought before everything went black was of her father's voice. Then nothing. Pain brought her back. Voices, shouting, someone's hands on her, checking vitals, bright light in her eyes. She tried to push it away, but her arms wouldn't cooperate. "She's got a skull fracture. Possible subdural hematoma. We need to move her now. Spinal precautions. C-collar before we shift her." "Who the hell authorized live rounds?" "Those aren't live. Rubber bullets. Still unauthorized. Someone's getting court-martialed for this." Evangeline tried to speak, managed only a groan. A face appeared above her. Older, weathered, familiar somehow, but she couldn't place it. Master Sergeant Dalton Merrick. "Easy, Corporal," he said, voice surprisingly gentle. "You're safe now. We've got you." "What happened?" "You got hurt, but you're going to be fine. Stay still. Let the medics work." She wanted to ask more questions, but unconsciousness pulled her down again. This time, she let it take her. When she woke next, she was in a hospital bed. Bright lights, white walls, the smell of antiseptic. Her head pounded with a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. Every breath hurt. A nurse noticed her eyes were open. "Welcome back, Corporal. How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck." "Close. Skull fracture. 14 stitches. Fractured cheekbone. Severe concussion. You're lucky it wasn't worse." Evangeline tried to sit up. Pain convinced her to stay horizontal. "How long?" "3 days. They kept you sedated while the swelling went down." 3 days. Hell Week was supposed to start in 2 days. She'd missed too much training. There was no way they'd let her continue. Tears threatened, but she fought them back. Sutherland's didn't cry. The door opened. Master Sergeant Merrick entered, removed his cover, and sat in the chair beside her bed. They looked at each other for a long moment. "I failed," Evangeline said finally. "No," Merrick replied. "You survived. I'm out. There's no way I can continue the course." "That's not your decision to make." He leaned forward, hands clasped between his knees. "I need to tell you something, Corporal Sutherland. Something I should have told you the first day." Evangeline waited. "I knew your father, Colonel Nathaniel Sutherland. We served together. Iraq, 2007, Ramadi. I was a staff sergeant then, got caught in an ambush. IED took out my Humvee, both legs broken, burns over 40% of my body, couldn't walk, could barely breathe." His eyes went distant, seeing something a dozen years gone. "Your father was in the convoy behind us. Could have waited for QRF. Should have waited. Instead, he grabbed a fire extinguisher and ran straight into the kill zone. Pulled me out of that burning vehicle. Carried me 400 meters through active fire. Saved my life." Evangeline felt something break open inside her chest. "I made him a promise that day," Merrick continued. "If anything ever happened to him, I'd watch over his family, make sure they were okay." 2 years later, he was dead. Ramadi again. Different ambush. I wasn't there to return the favor. "You couldn't have known." "No, but I've spent 12 years wishing I'd been there anyway." He reached into his pocket, pulled out something small, placed it on the bedside table. A challenge coin. Old. Worn. The emblem of Colonel Nathaniel Sutherland's unit. "He gave me that the day he pulled me out. Said, 'You're one of us now, Stone. Family takes care of family. So I'm taking care of you, Corporal, whether you want me to or not.'" Evangeline picked up the coin. Her father had touched this, had carried it. The metal was warm from Merrick's pocket. "What happened to Blackwell?" she asked. "Arrested. Him and his 2 friends. Assault. Unauthorized ammunition. They're done. Dishonorable discharge, probably. Blackwell's cousin is a senator, so he might get a deal. But he'll never wear the uniform again. And me? You have a choice. Medical discharge, honorable, no stigma. You've proven yourself already. Or, or, or you heal up and finish what you started. Hell Week's been pushed back 4 weeks to accommodate your recovery. Medical board will clear you if you pass their assessment at week 3. 4 weeks. That was barely enough time for a skull fracture to heal. But it was something. A chance. Evangeline looked at the coin in her hand, thought of her father carrying it through Ramadi, thought of Merrick carrying it for 12 years, waiting to fulfill a promise, thought of Blackwell's words, "Should have stayed behind a desk." She looked at Merrick. "I'm finishing," she said. "No matter what it takes, I'm finishing." Merrick smiled. First time she'd seen him smile. It transformed his hard face into something almost gentle. "Your father would be proud," he said. "Hell, Corporal, I'm proud, and I barely know you." He stood, placed his cover back on his head. "Rest now. Physical therapy starts tomorrow. You've got 4 weeks to get ready for the hardest 5 days of your life. Don't waste them." He reached the door, paused, looked back. "One more thing. Your father used to say something when things got hard. Want to know what it was?" Yes. He'd say, "A Sutherland never quits." Made me say it too, every time I wanted to give up during rehab. Drove me crazy, but it worked. Evangeline felt tears finally break through. Not from pain, from something else. Something that felt like hope. Merrick nodded once and left. Evangeline lay back in the hospital bed, holding her father's coin, and began planning for Hell Week. They thought they'd broken her. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The physical therapy room at Camp Pendleton smelled like rubber mats and determination. Evangeline arrived at 05:30 every morning for 4 weeks straight. Her body screamed in protest every single time. The first 2 weeks were basic rehabilitation, relearning to walk straight, to focus her eyes without the world tilting sideways, to think through the fog of post-concussion syndrome that made every thought feel like wading through mud. The doctors had been clear: skull fracture, fractured cheekbone, severe concussion. She needed rest. She needed time. She gave herself neither. The therapist, a Navy corpsman named Patterson, worked her through exercises designed to restore balance and spatial awareness. Concussions damage more than just bone. They scrambled the brain's ability to process movement, to judge distance, to react with the speed combat required. "Walk the line," Patterson ordered on day 4, heel to toe, eyes closed. Evangeline stepped forward. The world tilted. She stumbled, caught herself on the wall. Again. She tried. Failed. Tried again. Failed again. On the 7th attempt, she made it 3 steps before losing balance. Progress measured in inches. Master Sergeant Merrick appeared on day 6. He said nothing, just watched from the doorway. When she finished, sweating and frustrated, he approached. "Your father collapsed during his Hell Week," Merrick said quietly. "Mile 40 of the final march. Hypothermia, dehydration. Medical wanted to pull him. You know what he did?" "What?" "Told them to go to hell. Stood up and finished the last 15 miles. Came in dead last, but he finished." Evangeline wiped sweat from her face. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because genetics matter. You've got his stubbornness, his refusal to accept defeat. But stubbornness without wisdom gets you killed. Know when to push, know when to rest. Your father learned that the hard way." He turned to leave, paused at the door. "Hell Week starts in 24 days. You're not ready, but you will be." He was gone before she could respond. Patterson handed her a water bottle. "He's right, you know. You're pushing too hard. Your brain needs time to heal." "I don't have time." "Then make time. Train smart, not just hard. Rest is part of training." She knew he was right, hated that he was right, but she started listening. The second 2 weeks were reconditioning, rebuilding the strength and endurance she'd lost during recovery. Her body had atrophied during the 3 weeks of hospital and early rehab. Muscles that had been hard as steel now felt soft, unreliable. She fixed that through sheer volume of work. She slept 8 hours instead of 4, ate properly instead of forcing down protein bars, let her body repair itself while drilling the fundamentals until they became instinct again. By day 20, she could walk the balance beam blindfolded, could do the obstacle course in under 25 minutes, could shoot expert qualification scores even with a headache that never quite went away. By day 28, she felt human again, strong, ready. The other Marines watched her return to full training with mixed reactions. Some offered quiet words of encouragement, others maintained careful distance, unsure how to process what had happened. A few seemed almost disappointed she'd survived. PFC Hollis Brennan approached her after a training run on day 26. "Good to have you back, Corporal," he said. "Wasn't the same without you." "How many are left?" she asked. 38. 13 washed out during the time you were gone. Couldn't handle the pressure. 38 from 51. The attrition rate was brutal, and Hell Week hadn't even started. "Blackwell's gone," Brennan continued. "Discharged. Caldwell and Vaughn got suspended. Might face court-martial. Everyone knows what happened, what they did to you." Good. Some of the guys, they're saying you're tough, that you earned your place. Others, he trailed off. Others what? Others think you got special treatment, that they went easy on Blackwell because you're a woman, that if you were a man, they'd have overlooked it. Evangeline's jaw tightened. I don't care what they think. I know. Just wanted you to know what you're walking into. Thanks, Brennan. He nodded and jogged away. Evangeline stood alone in the California sun and felt the weight of it all. The expectations, the scrutiny, the knowledge that every mistake would be magnified, every success diminished. This was the price of being first, of breaking barriers. It wasn't fair, but fair was a child's fantasy. This was the real world. You played the hand you were dealt. She went back to training. Hell Week began on a Sunday night at 2300 hours. The 38 remaining Marines stood in formation on the beach. Pacific Ocean waves crashing behind them, wind cutting through their uniforms. Gunnery Sergeant Ashford stood before them with an expression that promised suffering. Welcome to Hell Week, he announced. The next 5.5 days will be the hardest of your lives. You will be cold. You will be wet. You will be in pain. You will question every decision that brought you here. Most of you will quit. That's not a threat. It's a statistical fact. He gestured to a brass bell mounted on a post 50 feet away. Ring that bell 3 times and you're done. No judgment. No shame. You tried. That's more than most people can say. Your life goes back to normal. Hot food, warm bed, sleep. All you have to do is ring the bell. The bell gleamed in the moonlight, tempting, mocking. But if you stay, Ashford continued, if you push through the pain and the exhaustion and the voice in your head telling you to quit, you will earn the title of Recon Marine. And that is something nobody can ever take from you. He checked his watch. Hell Week begins in 60 seconds. I suggest you make peace with whatever God you believe in. The seconds ticked down. Evangeline's heart hammered. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, from anticipation. This was what she'd come for. This was the test that would prove whether her father's blood ran true. Time, Ashford said. Instructors appeared from the darkness carrying fire hoses. The water hit like a frozen fist. 60-degree ocean water at full pressure. It knocked Marines off their feet, sent them tumbling across the sand. Evangeline braced, took the blast, forced herself to stay upright. The water hammered her for what felt like hours, but was probably 30 seconds. Then it stopped. Surf torture, Ashford shouted. Move! They ran into the ocean. October water in California was cold enough to stop your heart if you weren't careful. The Marines formed a line, arms locked together, and sat in the surf zone where waves broke over them constantly. Evangeline felt the cold invade her body, first the skin, then the muscles, then something deeper. Her teeth chattered, her entire body shook. Next to her, a lance corporal was already turning gray, lips blue. Sing, an instructor ordered. The Marine Corps hymn, loud, they sang. Voices cracking, barely audible over the waves. But they sang. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. 30 minutes passed. An hour. Evangeline lost feeling in her feet, her hands. The shaking became uncontrollable. Her brain started sending confused signals, warmth spreading through her limbs. The first sign of hypothermia. The body's lie before it began shutting down. She forced herself to focus, counted waves. 1, 2, 3. Started over. 1, 2, 3. Gave her mind something to do besides contemplate the cold. Somewhere to her left, a Marine stood up and walked out of the surf, headed straight for the bell, rang it 3 times. The sound echoed across the beach. 1 down. They stayed in the surf for another hour. 2 more Marines quit, rang the bell, were wrapped in blankets and driven away. 35 remained. When they were finally allowed out of the water, Evangeline couldn't walk properly. Her legs refused to bend. Instructors had to help some Marines to the beach. Nobody complained. Pride was a luxury Hell Week didn't permit. "Uniform change," Ashford ordered. "Dry utilities. You have 3 minutes." They ran to their gear, stripped out of wet uniforms, pulled on dry ones. The warmth lasted maybe 10 minutes before the next evolution. Log PT. 6 Marines per log. 250 pounds of telephone pole that had to be lifted, carried, held overhead in various positions while instructors screamed instructions. Evangeline's team consisted of herself, Brennan, and 4 Marines she barely knew. The largest was a corporal named Thaddeus Granger, 6'4", built like he'd been genetically engineered for this. The smallest was PFC Reese Dixon, the same Marine who'd been hit during Blackwell's ambush. "Lift!" the instructor shouted. They lifted. The log weighed more than expected. Evangeline's shoulders, still healing from the rubber bullet impact weeks ago, screamed in protest. She ignored them. "Overhead press, 10 reps, begin." They pressed. Evangeline's arms shook. The log wobbled. Granger compensated, took extra weight. They finished the reps. "Log run, to the ocean and back, move." They ran, 6 Marines moving as one, the log bouncing on their shoulders with every step. Sand grabbed at their boots. The log seemed to gain weight with each stride. They reached the water, turned, ran back. "Faster!" the instructor screamed. "My grandmother moves faster than this." Evangeline's lungs burned. Her legs felt like concrete, but she matched pace with her team, refused to be the weak link. They ran for an hour, carried the log through obstacle courses, did overhead presses until muscles failed. When it finally ended, 3 more Marines had quit. 32 remained. Day 1 continued without pause. Runs, swims, obstacle courses, more surf torture. They were given no time to rest, no moment to recover. The instructors rotated in shifts, fresh and energetic. The Marines had no such luxury. Somewhere around hour 20, Evangeline stopped feeling individual pains. Everything hurt equally, a constant low-grade agony that became background noise. Her mind began to drift. Hallucinations at the edge of vision, shadows that moved wrong, voices that weren't there. She recognized the signs: sleep deprivation psychosis, the brain shutting down non-essential functions, trying to force rest. She fought it by focusing on immediate tasks, one evolution at a time, one step at a time, one breath at a time. During a brief moment between evolutions, she found herself standing next to the bell. How she'd gotten there she couldn't remember. The bell gleamed in the pre-dawn light. 3 rings. That's all it would take. Her hand reached toward the rope. A voice stopped her. "Don't." She turned. Master Sergeant Merrick stood 10 feet away, arms crossed, expression unreadable in the pre-dawn darkness. "Your father stood exactly where you're standing right now," he said. "Hell Week, Day 2, hour 23. He told me later he couldn't remember walking to the bell. His body just took him there." "What did he do?" "He walked away, told himself if he could make it 1 more hour, just 1 more hour, he'd survive. Then when that hour passed, he told himself the same thing. 1 more hour. He survived Hell Week 1 hour at a time." Evangeline looked at the bell, then at Merrick, then she turned and walked away. 1 more hour. She could do 1 more hour. Day 2 brought new torments. The obstacle course, but this time wearing boots filled with sand. Runs carrying a 60-pound pack. Ocean swims in full utilities. More log PT, more surf torture. And throughout it all, the instructors screaming, breaking them down, searching for the breaking point. 4 more Marines quit on Day 2. 28 remained. Day 3 introduced drown-proofing, a test that terrified even experienced swimmers. Marines had their hands tied behind their backs, feet bound together, and were dropped into a 12-foot deep pool. The task was simple: survive 20 minutes, float, Breathe. Don't panic. Evangeline stood at the pool's edge, watching other Marines go through the evolution. Some managed it easily, others struggled, were pulled out by safety divers after swallowing too much water. Her turn came. The instructor tied her hands with practiced efficiency, then her feet, checked the knots. Too tight to slip, but not tight enough to cut off circulation. You panic, you drown, he said conversationally. You fight it, you drown. Only way through is to relax. Let your body do what it's designed to do. Float. Breathe. Don't overthink it. Easy for him to say. They dropped her in. The water closed over her head. Evangeline sank, then kicked hard, broke the surface, gasped air, sank again. Panic clawed at her throat. The memory surfaced unbidden. 7 years old. Community pool. Slipped off the edge into the deep end. Couldn't swim yet. Sinking. Water burning her lungs. The lifeguard pulling her out just in time. She'd been terrified of deep water ever since. And now she was bound hand and foot in 12 feet of it. Her heart hammered. She kicked frantically, broke surface again, gulped air, went under. This wasn't working. She was burning energy too fast. Would drown from exhaustion before the 20 minutes ended. Focus. Her father's voice. Memory from childhood. Teaching her to swim years after the pool incident. Water wants to hold you up, kiddo. It's literally trying to help. You just have to let it. Evangeline stopped fighting. Let her body relax. Felt the natural buoyancy bring her up. Her head broke surface. She breathed. Shallow breaths. Controlled. Let herself sink a bit, then kicked gently to rise again. Found a rhythm. Down. Up. Breathe. Down. Up. Breathe. The 20 minutes passed. The instructor pulled her out. Good, he said. Real good. Most people your size struggle with buoyancy. You figured it out fast. Evangeline lay on the pool deck, chest heaving, hands still bound. She'd done it. Conquered a fear she'd carried for 17 years. One more demon dead. Not everyone was so fortunate. 2 Marines couldn't handle the psychological pressure of being bound and submerged. They panicked, had to be pulled out, and rang the bell within the hour. 26 remained. Day 4 began with the words every Marine had been dreading. 55-mile march, Gunnery Sergeant Ashford announced. Full pack, 80 pounds minimum. Weapon, helmet, you have 12 hours. Anyone slower than 12 hours is eliminated. No exceptions. No medical waivers. You finish in time, or you're done. 55 miles, 12 hours. That was nearly 5 miles per hour, sustained, with 80 pounds on your back. On roads, it would be hard. On the terrain they'd be covering, it was nearly impossible. The march began at 0600. The route took them through every type of California terrain. Sand, hills, rocky trails, sections of road, then back into wilderness. The pack dug into Evangeline's shoulders within the first mile. By mile 5, her hips were screaming. By mile 10, she'd gone numb to everything below the waist. She fell into the rhythm that had saved her during the first rucksack march. Left foot, right foot, breathe. Pick a point ahead. Walk to it. Pick another point. Don't think about the distance remaining, just the next 100 meters. Mile 20, a third of the way. Her vision narrowed to a tunnel. The world became pack in boots in trail. Nothing else existed. Mile 30, halfway. They'd been given one water stop, 5 minutes. Evangeline drank, refilled her canteens, kept moving. Stopping for too long would let the muscles stiffen. Better to keep moving. Mile 38. This was where her father had collapsed during his Hell Week. Hypothermia, dehydration. The medical staff had wanted to pull him. He'd refused. Evangeline understood now. At this point, your body wasn't human anymore. It was a machine operating on fumes and willpower. The meat wanted to quit. The spirit pushed it forward. She pushed. Mile 40. The trail climbed sharply. A hill that would have been easy fresh. Now it felt like a mountain. Evangeline's legs trembled with each step. Her breathing came in ragged gasps. Black spots danced in her vision. She stopped, had to stop, just for a moment. That's when she saw it. 10 feet ahead, face down in the trail, was Corporal Thaddeus Granger, the biggest, strongest Marine in their class. He'd collapsed. Evangeline dropped to her knees beside him. "Granger, can you hear me?" He groaned, tried to push himself up, failed. "Leave me," he muttered. Can't make it." "The hell you can't." She grabbed his pack straps, tried to help him up. He was too heavy. She didn't have the strength. An instructor appeared, Master Sergeant Merrick. "He's done, Corporal," Merrick said. "Heat exhaustion. Needs medical. Keep moving." "No," Merrick's eyes narrowed. "That's not a request. I'm not leaving him. You help him, you both fail. The rules are clear. You have to finish on your own power. No assistance." Evangeline looked at Granger, looked at Merrick, made a decision that would probably cost her everything she'd worked for. "Then we both fail," she said. She pulled Granger to his feet. He draped an arm over her shoulder. Together, they started walking. Merrick watched them for a long moment. Then he spoke into his radio. "Medical to Grid 47. Marine down. Also note in Corporal Sutherland's file. Refused to abandon teammate despite knowing it would disqualify her." They made it another 100 meters before the medical truck arrived. Medics loaded Granger onto a stretcher, checked his vitals. Severe dehydration. Possible heat stroke. He'd be fine, but his hell week was over. Merrick approached Evangeline. "That was stupid," he said. "Yes, Master Sergeant. Cost you your qualification." "Yes, Master Sergeant." He studied her face. "Why'd you do it?" "Because leaving a Marine behind isn't who I am. Sir, my father didn't raise me to win by abandoning people who need help. If that disqualifies me, then I wasn't meant to be recon." Merrick's expression didn't change. "Get back on the trail, Corporal. You're 5 miles behind pace. You've got 90 minutes to cover 15 miles if you want to make the cutoff. I suggest you run." Evangeline stared at him. "I'm not disqualified?" "The rule is you can't receive assistance. Says nothing about giving it. Granger could walk. You just helped him cover ground faster. Technically legal. Also technically stupid. Now move before I change my mind." Evangeline ran. Her legs protested. Her lungs screamed. The pack threatened to pull her over backward with each stride. She ran anyway. 15 miles, 90 minutes, 6-minute mile pace with 80 pounds and 78 hours of hell week in her legs. Impossible. She ran anyway. Mile 45, 60 minutes remaining, 10 miles to go. She'd never make it. The math didn't work. She ran harder. Mile 50, 30 minutes remaining, 5 miles. She needed to average 6-minute miles. She was barely managing 8. Her father's voice echoed in her skull. Evangeline found something deep inside, some reserve she didn't know existed. She stopped running and started sprinting. Full combat load. 80 pounds. Sprint. Her body screamed that this was impossible. Her mind told it to shut up and move. Mile 53. 15 minutes remaining. 2 miles. She could see the finish line. Gunnery Sergeant Ashford standing with a stopwatch. A small group of Marines who'd already finished. They saw her coming and started cheering. "Move, Sutherland! Move!" 1 mile remaining. 8 minutes. She couldn't feel her legs anymore. Couldn't feel anything except the finish line pulling her forward like gravity. Final hill. Her legs nearly gave out. She grabbed the ground with her hands, pulled herself up like an animal. Final straight. 200 meters. 90 seconds. She ran. Not with form, not with grace, with pure, desperate survival instinct. She crossed the finish line and collapsed. Time, 11 hours, 58 minutes, 41 seconds, 19 seconds under the cutoff. She lay on the ground, chest heaving, unable to move. Medics checked her vitals. Dehydration, exhaustion, but nothing that wouldn't heal. Ashford stood over her. "Corporal Sutherland, that was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've seen in 20 years of Hell Week. Possibly both. But you made it. Well done." She managed to nod. 3 Marines hadn't finished in time. They were pulled, sent back to their regular units. 23 remained. Day 5, the final day. The day that would separate Recon Marines from everyone else. The evolution was called the Gauntlet. 12 straight hours of combat scenarios, urban warfare, hostage rescue, building clearance. Every skill they'd learned compressed into one continuous nightmare. And Evangeline had been selected as squad leader for her team. 6 Marines, herself, Brennan, Dixon, and 3 others. Their mission: navigate through a mock urban environment, locate and rescue 2 hostages, and extract to a designated point, all while an OP-4 team of instructors hunted them. The kicker: the OP-4 was led by Master Sergeant Merrick himself. They were given 30 minutes to plan. Evangeline spread a map on the ground, gathered her team. "Here's how we play this," she said, voice hoarse from 5 days of yelling over instructors in ocean waves. "OP-4 expects us to go direct, straight line to the objective. Instead, we loop north, come at it from the weak side." "That adds 2 clicks to the route," one Marine objected. "We'll lose time." "We'll lose time, but we'll keep surprise. And against Merrick, surprise is the only advantage we're getting." "Questions?" Brennan spoke up. "What if they adapt, reposition to counter our flanking move?" "Then we adapt again. This isn't about following a perfect plan. It's about staying flexible and making decisions faster than they can react." They nodded. Good Marines, exhausted, barely functional, but still sharp enough to think tactically. The whistle blew. Game on. Evangeline led them through the urban environment, abandoned buildings, narrow alleys, vehicles positioned to create choke points. Her team moved in a staggered column, weapons up, scanning for threats. They cleared 3 blocks without contact. The silence was unnerving. Where was OP-4? Then she understood. Merrick wasn't hunting them. He was defending the objective, waiting for them to come to him, letting them burn energy navigating while his team rested. Smart. She adjusted the plan. Instead of continuing the flank, she pushed straight through the center. Aggressive. Unexpected. The opposite of what exhausted Marines should do. They hit the objective building from 3 directions simultaneously. Evangeline and Brennan through the front, Dixon and another Marine through the back. 2 more securing the perimeter. The hostages were in a second-floor room. Evangeline cleared the stairs, entered the room, cut the zip ties binding 2 instructors playing the role of captives. "We're here to extract you. Stay close. Do exactly what we say." Too easy. This was too easy. She realized the trap half a second before it sprang. OP-4 was in the building, 3rd floor. They'd let her team get inside, then collapse from above. Simunition rounds cracked through the air. Blue paint splattered. 2 of her Marines were killed immediately. Dixon took a round to the chest, out of the scenario. Evangeline grabbed the hostages. "Brennan, cover the stairs. Everyone else, windows, we're going out the windows." They crashed through 2nd-story windows, dropped 10 feet to the alley below. 1 hostage twisted an ankle. Evangeline grabbed him, half-carried him toward the extraction point. OP-4 poured out of the building behind them. This was it, the final test. Run or fight. Evangeline chose fight. "Ambush position, that corner, set up a kill zone." Her remaining Marines, down to just 3 plus herself, took positions, created overlapping fields of fire. When OP-4 rounded the corner in pursuit, they ran straight into concentrated fire. Merrick went down first, killed by Brennan's perfect headshot. 2 more instructors followed. The scenario ended with a whistle. Silence. Then Merrick stood up, brushed blue paint off his uniform, and walked over to Evangeline. You were supposed to run, he said. Running would have gotten us killed. Sir, you had two hostages. The mission was to extract them safely, not win a firefight. The hostages are safe. Mission accomplished. Merrick studied her for a long moment, then smiled. Actually smiled. Outstanding, Corporal. That's exactly the kind of tactical thinking we need in recon. You saw the situation, made a decision, and executed. Well done. He turned to address all the Marines present. This concludes Hell Week. Those of you still standing have earned the right to continue in this program. Get cleaned up, get some sleep. We'll see you Monday for graduation. 23 Marines remain from the original 51. Evangeline was one of them. The only woman. She'd done it. Hell Week was over. They returned to the barracks in a daze, too exhausted to celebrate, too relieved to care. Evangeline made it to her rack, sat down, started unlacing her boots. Her hands were shaking, not from exhaustion, from emotion finally breaking through the walls she'd built to survive the last 5 days. She'd done it. Brennan appeared. Corporal, just wanted to say, that was incredible. The way you handled that final scenario. Granger told me what you did for him on the march. You're the real deal. All of us know it now. Thanks, Brennan. He left her alone. Evangeline pulled off her boots. Her feet were destroyed. Blisters on blisters. Toenails black and ready to fall off. She didn't care. She'd wear these scars proudly. She pulled out her father's challenge coin, the one Merrick had given her weeks ago, held it up to the light. I did it, Dad, she whispered. I made it through Hell Week, just like you. Sleep took her moments later. The deep, dreamless sleep of someone who'd pushed past every limit and survived. The graduation ceremony was held 3 days later. Time enough for Marines to recover basic motor function. 23 haggard, exhausted, proud Marines stood in formation. Gunnery Sergeant Ashford called them forward one at a time, presented each with a recon badge, a small metal insignia that meant everything. Corporal Evangeline Sutherland, she marched forward, stood at attention. Master Sergeant Merrick stepped forward instead of Ashford. In his hands, the recon badge. Your father would be incredibly proud, Merrick said quietly, pinning the badge to her uniform. I know I am. Thank you, Master Sergeant. The formation erupted in applause. All 23 Marines, instructors, even some Marines from other units who'd come to watch. Evangeline stood there, recon badge on her chest, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Complete. The ceremony ended. Marines began to disperse. Evangeline stood alone for a moment, looking at the obstacle course where this had all begun. Then she noticed a figure approaching from the medical observation area. Corporal Thaddeus Granger, still in utilities, no recon badge. He'd been watching from the sidelines. Corporal Sutherland, he said, coming to attention. Evangeline turned. Granger, how are you feeling? Better. Doctors cleared me for the next Hell Week cycle. He paused, seemed to struggle with words. I wanted to thank you for what you did on that march. You could have left me, should have left me, cost you nothing to walk past. Leaving you would have cost me everything that matters. Granger nodded slowly. Master Sergeant Merrick told me what you said, about your father not raising you to win by abandoning people. He extended his hand. When I make it through next cycle, I hope to serve with you someday. You're the kind of Marine I want covering my 6. She shook his hand firmly. You'll make it, Granger. You've got what it takes. Just needed more time to adapt. Yes, Corporal. See you in Afghanistan. He saluted, walked away with purpose. Evangeline watched him go, knowing he'd keep that promise. A voice behind her. Corporal Sutherland. She turned. A Navy captain she didn't recognize stood there. I'm Captain Sanderson, Personnel Command. I wanted to speak with you about your next assignment. You've been selected for immediate deployment to Afghanistan. Recon Team Viper. They've requested you specifically. Specifically? Why? Your performance during Hell Week. The team leader, Lieutenant Granger, yes, relation to the corporal you helped, wants Marines who think tactically and don't abandon teammates. You demonstrated both. Afghanistan. Real combat. This was what she'd been training for. When do I leave, sir? 2 weeks. Enough time to complete final training and get your affairs in order. Congratulations, Corporal. You earned this. He saluted. She returned it. He walked away. Evangeline stood in the California sun, recon badge glinting on her chest, and thought about what came next. The training was over. Now came the real test. The C-130 cargo plane shuddered through turbulence somewhere over the Hindu Kush Mountains. Evangeline sat strapped into the web seating, rifle between her knees, surrounded by 8 other Marines who comprised Recon Team Viper. 4 months had passed since Hell Week. 4 months of advanced training, marksmanship courses, tactical exercises. Now the classroom was behind them. The real exam waited below in the valleys and mountains of Helmand Province. Afghanistan in late autumn carried a particular kind of cold. Dry, cutting, the kind that found every gap in your gear and reminded you that humans weren't meant to survive in these elevations. The plane descended through clouds thick as smoke, and Evangeline caught her first glimpse of forward operating base Dwyer through the small window. A collection of plywood buildings, HESCO barriers, and hardened structures that represented American power projected into one of the most hostile regions on Earth. The wheels touched down hard. Marines grabbed gear and filed out into the Afghanistan afternoon. The air smelled like diesel fuel and burning trash. The sun was bright, but provided no warmth. Evangeline shouldered her pack and followed her team across the flight line toward the operations center. Lieutenant Thaddeus Granger waited for them. The same Granger who'd collapsed during the 55-mile march. He'd recovered, completed Hell Week with the next class, and earned his commission through Officer Candidate School. Now he commanded Recon Team Viper, 29 years old, 2 previous deployments, calm under pressure, exactly the kind of leader you wanted when bullets started flying. "Welcome to Dwyer," Granger said, shaking hands with each Marine. When he reached Evangeline, he paused. "Good to see you again, Corporal. Still saving people who don't deserve it?" She smiled. "Only on Tuesdays, sir." "Well, it's Thursday, so you're off the hook. Let's get you briefed." The operations center was a plywood box filled with maps, computers, and the controlled chaos of a forward combat unit. Granger gathered the team around a large topographic map of the region. "Our area of operations covers 60 square kilometers of some of the nastiest terrain in Afghanistan," he began, tapping the map. "Mountains, valleys, villages that haven't changed since the medieval period. The Taliban controls most of it. Our job is reconnaissance and direct action. We find them, fix them, and either eliminate them ourselves or call in assets to do it for us." He pointed to a specific valley. "Current priority target is a Taliban regional commander named Mullah Aziz Rahman. Intelligence calls him the Viper, which is why we get the honor of hunting him. He's responsible for at least 40 coalition KIA in the last year. IEDs mostly, but also several ambushes. He's smart, careful, and very good at not getting caught." Evangeline studied the map. The valley was a nightmare of terrain. Multiple egress routes, high ground on all sides, perfect defensive position. "What's the intelligence source?" she asked. "Human intelligence. Local national who claims Rahman is hiding in a village here." Granger tapped a spot on the map. "Village called Gar Kodal. Population maybe 200. Known Taliban sympathizers. The source says Rahman has 12 to 15 fighters with him." "Do we trust the source?" "As much as we trust any intelligence in this country, which is to say, not completely. That's why we're doing reconnaissance first. Eyes on target before we commit to anything kinetic." He looked around the room. "We insert tomorrow night, 2300 hours. Helicopter drop 3 clicks from the village. We move on foot, establish overwatch, and observe for 48 hours. If we confirm Rahman's presence, we either call in an airstrike or take him ourselves, depending on the tactical situation. Questions? PFC Hollis Brennan, who deployed with the team, raised his hand. Rules of engagement, sir? Standard ROE, positive identification before engaging. Women and children are off limits unless they're actively participating in hostilities. We're here to kill Taliban, not start an international incident. Anything else? Silence. Good. Get some rest. Check your gear. We step off in 28 hours. The team dispersed. Evangeline found her assigned hooch, a plywood room shared with 3 other female Marines from different units. She dropped her gear, checked her rifle for the 100th time since leaving California, and tried to sleep. It didn't come easily. Tomorrow night they'd be outside the wire, in country controlled by people who wanted them dead. This was different from training, different from exercises. Mistakes here had permanent consequences. She must have dozed eventually because someone was shaking her shoulder and sunlight was streaming through the window. Corporal, time to prep. The day passed in focused preparation, weapon maintenance, gear checks, going over maps until she could navigate the route blindfolded. The team operated with quiet professionalism. No bravado, no Hollywood heroics, just Marines preparing to do a dangerous job as safely as possible. Evangeline was assigned the designated marksman role. She'd scored expert on every rifle qualification since boot camp, and during advanced training, she'd proven capable at ranges up to 800 meters. Her weapon was an M39 enhanced marksman rifle. Semi-automatic, 7.62 NATO rounds, effective range beyond anything the standard M4 carbine could manage. It was her responsibility to provide precision fire and overwatch while the team maneuvered. She loaded magazines with match-grade ammunition, checked her scopes 0, ran through breathing exercises and trigger control drills until muscle memory took over. Night fell. The team gathered at the helicopter pad. 2 UH-60 Blackhawks sat waiting, rotors beginning to turn. The sound was familiar now, the deep whop, whop, whop that meant it was time to work. Granger gave final instructions over the radio headset. Insertion in 15 minutes. Night vision only once we're on the ground. Radio discipline. If something goes wrong, rally point is here. He pointed to a spot on the map they'd all memorized. Any questions before we step off? Evangeline keyed her radio. Rules of engagement if we encounter civilians? Avoid contact if possible. If they see us, we abort and extract. This is a stealth mission. We're ghosts. The helicopters lifted off. Evangeline watched the base shrink below them, replaced by dark mountains and valleys, lit only by starlight. The flight took 20 minutes. They flew low, following terrain, pilots using night vision to navigate through mountain passes that would have been suicide in daylight. The crew chief held up 5 fingers. 5 minutes. The team checked gear one final time. Evangeline chambered a round in her rifle, clicked the safety on, took a deep breath. The helicopters flared, touched down for exactly 10 seconds. The team jumped out and dispersed into the darkness. The helicopters lifted off immediately, disappearing into the night sky. Silence rushed in to fill the void. Afghanistan at night was quieter than anything Evangeline had experienced. No insects, no birds, just wind and the sound of 8 Marines breathing. Granger signaled. They moved out in a staggered column, night vision turning the world into shades of green. The terrain was exactly as brutal as the map suggested. Rocky, steep. Every step had to be tested before committing weight. A twisted ankle out here could compromise the entire mission. They covered 3 kilometers in 90 minutes. Slow, careful, professional. The village of Gar Kotal appeared below them as a collection of mud brick compounds arranged around a central area. No electricity, no modern infrastructure, just humans living the way they'd lived for 1,000 years, except now with AK-47s and cell phones. Granger positioned the team on high ground overlooking the village. Good sightlines. Multiple escape routes. Defensible if things went bad. They settled in to observe. Hours passed. Evangeline watched through her rifle scope, scanning buildings, counting fighting-age males, mapping the terrain. Dawn came slowly, painting the mountains in shades of gold and amber. Beautiful. Deadly. The village came alive with morning prayers. Men emerged from buildings, walked to a small mosque, prayed. Women appeared briefly, faces covered, moving between buildings. Children played in the dirt. Normal village life, except for the weapons. Every adult male carried a rifle. Some had chest rigs with extra magazines. This wasn't a farming community. This was a Taliban stronghold. By midday, they'd counted 23 military-age males, more than intelligence suggested. If Rahman was here, he'd brought extra security. Evangeline was scanning the southern compound when she saw him. Tall, well-dressed by local standards, surrounded by 4 bodyguards who moved with tactical awareness. The man walked with authority, with confidence. People deferred to him. She keyed her radio. Possible jackpot, southern compound, single military-age male with 4 security, matches the description from intelligence. Granger shifted his position, glassed the compound with binoculars. That's him, he confirmed. That's Rahman. Good spot, Sutherland. They observed for another 12 hours. Confirmed Rahman's routine. He stayed mostly inside but emerged 3 times. Always with security. Always alert. This was a man who'd survived multiple kill or capture operations by being paranoid and careful. That night, Granger called for an extraction briefing. "We've got positive identification," he said quietly. "Rahman is here with approximately 25 fighters. Too many for a direct assault with 8 Marines. I'm calling for an airstrike. F-16 can put a JDAM on that compound and end this cleanly." "Civilians?" Evangeline asked. "Minimum. Rahman's compound is isolated from the others. Collateral should be minimal." It made tactical sense. 8 Marines against 25 hardened Taliban fighters was a losing proposition. An airstrike solved the problem with minimal risk. Granger made the call. The wait for approval took 2 hours. Then the radio crackled. "Viper Actual, this is Gladiator. Airstrike denied. Higher headquarters wants Rahman captured, not killed. Intel value is too high. You're cleared for direct action, if feasible. Otherwise, extract and we'll plan a larger operation." Granger's jaw tightened. "Gladiator, be advised, we are 8 Marines against 25 plus enemy. Direct action is not tactically sound." "Understood, Viper. Your call. Gladiator out." Granger looked at his team. "Thoughts?" "It's suicide," one Marine said immediately. 25 to 8 odds. Fortified position. We'd get shredded." Others nodded agreement. Evangeline studied the village through her scope. Something had been bothering her since they arrived. The compound layouts, the security patterns. Then she saw it. "Sir, I have an option." Granger looked at her. "I'm listening." "The Taliban aren't expecting us. They feel safe here. Their security is good but not great. See how the guards rotate? They leave the northern approach unobserved for approximately 3 minutes every hour. If we time it right, 4 Marines could infiltrate the compound, while the other 4 provide overwatch and covering fire. 4 Marines to capture or kill Rahman and fight their way back out through 25 hostiles? No, sir. 4 Marines to get in quiet, locate Rahman, and signal. Then we hit them with everything we have. The Overwatch team engages all targets of opportunity, creates chaos. The assault team grabs Rahman in the confusion and extracts north. The Overwatch team covers the withdrawal, then extracts south. We link up at the rally point. Granger considered it. That's a lot of moving parts, a lot that can go wrong. Yes, sir, but it's better odds than a frontal assault, and it gives us a chance to complete the mission. He looked around at the other Marines. Anyone have a better idea? Silence. All right, we go with Sutherland's plan. Assault team will be myself, Brennan, Dixon, and Corporal Reese. Overwatch is Sutherland, Hayes, Kowalski, and Webb. Sutherland, you're in charge of Overwatch. Position your people for maximum coverage and make every shot count. Questions. Evangeline's heart hammered. She was being given command of half the team. In combat, this was trust at the highest level. No questions, sir. We'll be ready. They spent the next hour planning, identifying fields of fire, timing the guard rotation, preparing contingencies. When darkness fell, they moved into position. Evangeline positioned her Overwatch team on 3 sides of the village. Each Marine had a sector, overlapping fields of fire. She took the elevated position with the best sight lines to Raman's compound. Through her scope, she watched Granger's assault team creep toward the village, shadows moving through shadows. They timed their approach perfectly, slipping through the gap in security coverage, disappearing into the compound. 5 minutes passed. 10. Evangeline's finger rested outside the trigger guard, ready but disciplined. Not yet. Wait for the signal. Her radio crackled. Granger's voice, barely a whisper. Jackpot, we have eyes on Raman, preparing to move. Stand by. Then everything went wrong. A door opened in an adjacent compound. A Taliban fighter emerged, walking toward Raman's building. He saw something, shouted, raised his AK-47. The entire village erupted. Granger's voice on the radio, calm despite the chaos. Execute, execute, all units engage. Evangeline didn't hesitate. Her crosshairs found the fighter who'd raised the alarm. Center mass. She pressed the trigger. The rifle bucked. Downrange, the fighter dropped. More Taliban poured out of buildings. Evangeline worked methodically. Find target, confirm hostile, fire. The rifle became an extension of her will. Every shot deliberate, every shot final. Target 2, fighter with an RPG. Headshot at 400 meters. Down. Target 3, fighter firing from a window. 2 shots center mass. Down. Target 4, fighter trying to flank Granger's position. Shoulder shot, then headshot when he spun. Down. The other Overwatch Marines were firing too. Coordinated, disciplined, creating exactly the chaos Evangeline had promised. The Taliban couldn't tell how many Marines they were facing, couldn't organize a coherent defense. Granger's team emerged from the compound, carrying someone. Raman. They grabbed him. But they were exposed, taking fire from multiple directions. Evangeline shifted her aim. A machine gun position on a rooftop had Granger's team pinned. She put 3 rounds through the gunner. The weapon went silent. Viper Actual, your route north is clear. Move now. Granger acknowledged. His team sprinted north, carrying Raman between them. More Taliban appeared. A lot more. This wasn't 25 fighters. This was 40, maybe 50. The intelligence had been wrong. Way wrong. Evangeline kept firing. Her world narrowed to scope, target, trigger, repeat. She lost count of shots. Magazines emptied and were replaced automatically. Muscle memory from 10,000 training repetitions. Target 5, 6, 7, 8. Her radio crackled. Overwatch, break contact and extract. We've got Raman. Get out of there. But Evangeline could see what Granger couldn't. Taliban fighters were moving to cut off the Overwatch team's southern escape route. If they extracted now, they'd run straight into an ambush. She made a decision, probably a stupid one, definitely a dangerous one. Negative, Overwatch is relocating to secondary position. We'll cover the assault team extraction, then extract on the northern route. Southern route is compromised. A pause, then Granger's voice. Sutherland, that adds 3 clicks to your extraction. You'll be exposed. Understood. We can handle it. Get Raman to the rally point. We'll meet you there. She switched frequencies to her Overwatch team. All Overwatch elements shift to secondary positions. Prepare to displace north on my mark. They moved. Four Marines bounding backward, covering each other, maintaining fire discipline even as Taliban rounds snapped past their heads. Evangeline was the last to move, providing cover as her team displaced. She fired her final rounds in the magazine, dropped it, reloaded, scanned for targets. A fighter appeared from behind a wall, AK raised, aiming at Corporal Hayes, who was mid-sprint. Evangeline's crosshairs found him. Press. The fighter dropped. 9 confirmed kills. All elements moving. Sutherland, you're last. Displaced now. She did. Grabbed her gear, low-crawled backward off her position, got to her feet, and ran. Bullets kicked up dirt around her. Something hot passed so close to her head, she felt the pressure wave. The team consolidated at the secondary position, a rocky outcropping that provided cover and concealment. They were 300 meters from the village now. The Taliban fire was decreasing. Either they were reorganizing or they'd lost track of where the Marines had gone. Sound off, Evangeline ordered. Hayes good. Kowalski good. Webb good, but I'm hit. Leg. Not bad, but I can't run. Damn. Evangeline crawled to Webb's position. He'd taken a round through the calf. Clean through. Missing the bone, but bleeding heavily. Tourniquet? She asked. Already on. I can walk, but not fast. Then we carry you. Hayes, Kowalski, help Webb. I'll take rear security. Move toward the rally point. Stay low. Stay quiet. Go. They moved through the darkness, slower now with Webb injured. Every sound felt amplified. Every shadow could hide Taliban fighters organizing a pursuit. They'd covered maybe a kilometer when Evangeline heard it. Voices behind them. Pashto. Multiple speakers. A pursuit force. The Taliban weren't giving up. They wanted their commander back, and they wanted the Marines who'd taken him. Evangeline dropped to a prone position, glassed the trail behind them with her night vision. 6 fighters, moving fast. They'd catch up within minutes. She had to slow them down. She found a position with good coverage, waited for the fighters to close within 300 meters, and opened fire. The lead fighter dropped. The others scattered, taking cover. Evangeline shifted position immediately. Firing from the same spot twice was suicide. She moved 20 meters left, found new cover. The Taliban returned fire. Wild, undisciplined, spraying bullets in the general direction they thought the shot had come from. She waited for them to reload, then fired again. Another fighter down. 10 confirmed kills. This time she moved right, circled around behind a boulder. The Taliban were being more careful now. They knew a single, accurate shooter was out there. They were advancing slower, using cover better. Good. That bought her team time. She put 2 more rounds downrange. Missed with one, hit with the other. The fighter went down screaming. 11. Her radio crackled. Hayes, Sutherland, we're at the rally point. What's your status? Delayed. Keep moving to the extraction point. I'll catch up. Negative, we're not leaving you. That's an order, Corporal. Get Webb to extraction. I'll be fine. She knew it was a lie, even as she said it. The Taliban fighters were spreading out now, trying to flank her. She could slow them but not stop them. Eventually, they'd get an angle. Eventually, she'd run out of luck. She fired again. Missed. The Taliban were learning her pattern, staying in cover longer, moving in bounds. Her radio crackled again. Different voice. Granger. All Viper elements be advised. QRF is inbound. 2 Black Hawks with door gunners. ETA 6 minutes. Get to the extraction point and mark your position with IR strobes. 6 minutes. Evangeline checked her ammunition. 2 magazines left, maybe 40 rounds. She could make that work. She fired, reloaded, fired, kept the Taliban heads down, kept them cautious. Movement to her right, a fighter trying to flank. She swung the rifle, fired 3 quick shots. The fighter dropped. 12. A sound behind her. Close. Too close. She spun, saw a Taliban fighter 10 meters away, rifle raised. Time slowed. Her rifle was pointed wrong. No time to aim. She fired from the hip, full auto, burning through the rest of her magazine. The fighter went down. So did two others she hadn't seen behind him. 13, 14, 15. Her rifle locked back on an empty magazine. Last one. She reloaded, dropped prone, scanned for more targets. Nothing. The Taliban fighters who remained were pulling back. They'd lost too many. The cost of this pursuit was exceeding the value. Evangeline's hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline crash. She just survived something that should have killed her, multiple times. She keyed her radio. "This is Sutherland. Threat neutralized. Moving to extraction now." She ran, full sprint, didn't care about noise discipline anymore. The helicopters would be here in minutes, and she needed to be gone before the Taliban regrouped. The extraction point was a flat area 2 kilometers from the village. Her team had IR strobes marking the landing zone. She saw them from half a click away and pushed harder. Webb was lying down, tourniquet bright against his leg. Hayes and Kowalski provided security. Granger's team was there too, Rahman zip-tied and hooded. Granger saw her coming, and his expression shifted from concern to relief. "Thought we lost you," he said. "Hard to kill, sir." The helicopters appeared from the north, landed. The team loaded quickly, professionally. Rahman was thrown into one bird. The Marines piled into both. Evangeline was last on, grabbing the crew chief's hand as he pulled her aboard. The helicopters lifted off. Taliban fighters appeared at the edge of the landing zone, firing. The door gunners returned fire with M240 machine guns, suppressing the threat. Then they were above effective range, flying low through the mountains, heading home. Evangeline sat on the floor of the helicopter, rifle across her lap, and let out a breath she felt like she'd been holding for hours. They'd done it. Against impossible odds, they'd completed the mission. And she'd proven something to herself, something she'd wondered about since that day in the training facility when Blackwell had knocked her unconscious. She could fight, could kill when necessary, could lead Marines in combat and bring them home. Her father would have been proud. The helicopters touched down at FOB Dwyer 40 minutes later. The team offloaded. Intelligence officers took custody of Rahman immediately, hustled him toward an interrogation facility. Medics grabbed Webb, started treating his leg properly. Granger gathered the team. "Outstanding work," he said simply. "Every single one of you performed flawlessly. Sutherland, your tactical plan worked perfectly. Your overwatch work saved the assault team multiple times. And your decision to delay the pursuit force gave us time to extract safely. Well done." The other Marines nodded agreement, even the ones who'd been skeptical about a woman in recon. Combat was the ultimate equalizer. It didn't care about gender or politics or opinions. It only cared about whether you could do the job. Evangeline had done the job. The debriefing took hours. Every shot fired accounted for. Every decision justified. The intelligence officers were particularly interested in her engagement with the pursuit force. "You're credited with 15 confirmed enemy killed," one officer said, reviewing the after-action report. "That's extraordinary marksmanship, Corporal, and tactical awareness well beyond your rank." "I was in a good position with a good rifle, sir, and they gave me plenty of targets." "Nevertheless, this is going in your record, along with a recommendation for decoration. Navy Cross, most likely. Your actions directly enabled the capture of a high-value target and saved the lives of multiple Marines." He paused, flipping through papers. "There's something else you should know. The intelligence that led us to Rahman, the source who gave us the compound location, and claimed 12 to 15 fighters? Yes, sir. He's been detained. Turns out he was working both sides, gave us enough good information to seem credible, but deliberately understated the enemy's strength. Rahman knew we were coming. That's why he had 50 fighters instead of 25. It was supposed to be an ambush." Evangeline's blood ran cold. "We walked into a trap." You walked into a trap and turned it around on them. Rahman's interrogation confirmed it. He was planning to capture or kill the recon team, paraded as a propaganda victory. Your tactical decision to split into Assault and Overwatch, to create chaos instead of using conventional tactics. It's the only reason the team survived. Granger, standing nearby, spoke up. The intelligence leak. Do we know who authorized that source? Under investigation. But it goes high, Lieutenant. Someone wanted Rahman badly enough to risk a recon team. We're lucky Corporal Sutherland was thinking 3 steps ahead. The room went quiet. They hadn't just won. They'd survived a betrayal and turned it into a victory. Navy Cross, the second highest decoration for valor. Evangeline didn't know what to say. Thank you, sir. The officer smiled. Don't thank me yet. You've still got 8 more months of this deployment. Plenty of time for more excitement. He wasn't wrong. The deployment continued. More missions, more firefights, more nights spent on cold mountainsides watching villages. But nothing quite matched the intensity of that first mission. Word spread through the unit about what had happened, about the female recon Marine who'd killed 15 Taliban and extracted her team safely. Some of the skepticism faded. Not all. There were still Marines who thought women didn't belong in combat roles, but fewer now, and quieter. The deployment ended in late spring. 8 months of combat operations with 0 friendly casualties in Viper team. 3 more high-value targets captured or killed. Evangeline's confirmed kill count climbed to 37 over the course of the deployment. The intelligence officers tracked every engagement, every confirmed elimination. Numbers that represented lives taken, threats neutralized, Marines protected. She didn't dwell on the count. Each one had been necessary. Each one had kept her team alive. The flight home felt unreal. One day she was in Afghanistan, the next she was landing at Camp Pendleton in the California sunshine. Master Sergeant Merrick waited at the airfield. 56 years old now, retired from active duty but still working as a contractor and advisor. He'd been following her deployment through official channels. "Welcome home, Corporal," he said, shaking her hand. "Heard you've been busy." "Just doing my job, Master Sergeant. Just doing your job." That's what your father would have said too, except he'd be lying, and so are you. You did extraordinary things over there. They walked toward the base together. "There's going to be a ceremony in 2 weeks," Merrick said. "Navy Cross presentation. Full dress uniform. Press will be there. You'll hate every minute of it." "Looking forward to it already, Master Sergeant." He laughed. "Your father hated ceremonies too. Had to be ordered to accept his Silver Star. Said he was just doing what anyone would have done." Was he right? No, he was being modest, same as you. But modest doesn't change facts. You saved your team, captured a high-value target, killed 15 enemy combatants in a single engagement. That's not ordinary, that's extraordinary. They reached the barracks. Merrick paused. "I'm proud of you," he said. "Your father would be too. You've honored his memory better than any medal or ceremony ever could." Evangeline felt emotion threaten to overwhelm her carefully maintained composure. "Thank you for everything, for watching over me, for believing in me, for telling me about him. I made a promise. Family takes care of family." He saluted. She returned it. Then he walked away. The ceremony 2 weeks later was exactly as uncomfortable as predicted. Camp Pendleton Parade Ground, 300 Marines in formation, press cameras, senior officers including a 2-star general who flew in specifically for the event. Evangeline stood at attention in her dress blues, medals she'd earned during deployment on her chest. The citation was read aloud. Her actions in Afghanistan, the tactical decisions, the lives saved, the mission accomplished. The general pinned the Navy Cross to her uniform personally. "Corporal Sutherland," he said, voice carrying across the parade ground, "your actions exemplify the finest traditions of the Marine Corps. You demonstrated courage, tactical brilliance, and selfless dedication to your fellow Marines. The Corps is proud of you. America is proud of you. Well done. The formation erupted in applause. 300 Marines recognizing one of their own. Evangeline stood there, Navy Cross on her chest, and thought about the journey that had brought her here. From a broken teenager standing at her parents' graves to a decorated combat veteran. From being told she didn't belong to earning the respect of every Marine who served with her. The ceremony ended. Marines broke formation. Friends and fellow recon Marines approached to offer congratulations. She saw someone standing at the edge of the crowd. Garrett Blackwell, wearing civilian clothes, dishonorably discharged months ago, but allowed to attend as a guest of someone. He approached hesitantly. "Corporal Sutherland," he said formally, "I wanted to say I was wrong about everything. You're twice the Marine I ever was. What you did in Afghanistan, what you've accomplished, I'm sorry for how I treated you. You didn't deserve any of it." Evangeline studied him, saw genuine remorse, genuine respect. "Apology accepted," she said, "but it doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't fix the damage. All it does is acknowledge you understand you were wrong. I know, but I wanted to say it anyway. You deserve to hear it." "Then thank you. Now go be better." That's how you actually make amends, by being better going forward. He nodded, shook her hand, and walked away. Evangeline watched him go and felt no satisfaction, no vindication, just relief that a chapter had closed. Sergeant Hollis Brennan appeared next, now wearing his own Navy Achievement Medal from the deployment. He'd been promoted after the mission. "Corporal," he said with a grin, "remember when I tried to warn you about Blackwell on day one? Told you not to let him get to you? I remember you trying to defend me. I told you I didn't need it. You were right. You never needed defending. You just needed us to get out of your way and let you be the Marine you already were." He grew serious. "What you did in that village, holding off that pursuit force alone so we could extract Webb, that's the bravest thing I've ever seen. Period. You would have done the same. Maybe. But you actually did it." He offered a crisp salute. "It's been an honor, Corporal Sutherland. Semper Fi." "Semper Fi, Sergeant Brennan." Gunnery Sergeant Ashford appeared after Brennan left. "Quite a day, Corporal." "Yes, Gunnery Sergeant. I've been authorized to offer you something. The Recon School is looking for instructors, Marines with recent combat experience who can teach the next generation what real operations look like. Interested? Teaching, passing on knowledge, making sure other Marines were as prepared as possible before they face combat." "Very interested, Gunnery Sergeant." "Good. You start in 6 weeks. There's a new class beginning. 53 candidates. 2 of them are women. They'll need to see that it's possible, that someone like them succeeded. I'll do my best." "You always do, Corporal. That's why we want you." The ceremony concluded with a reception. Evangeline endured handshakes and congratulations with as much grace as she could manage. But her mind was already moving forward, to the next mission, the next challenge. That evening, she drove to Arlington National Cemetery, used her military ID to enter after hours, walked through the endless rows of white headstones until she found the one she was looking for. Colonel Nathaniel Sutherland, beloved father, dedicated officer, Medal of Honor recipient. Evangeline knelt beside the grave, placed her Navy Cross on the headstone next to the flowers someone, probably her uncle, had left recently. "I did it, Dad," she said quietly. "Made it through recon, deployed to Afghanistan, came home with everyone I went with. The instructors say I have a gift for this, for leading Marines, for keeping people alive." A breeze rustled through the trees. Sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "Master Sergeant Merrick told me about what you did for him, how you saved his life. He's been watching over me ever since, kept his promise to you. I wanted you to know that, wanted you to know I'm not alone." She touched the headstone, cool marble under her fingers. "I'm going to be an instructor now, teaching the next generation, making sure they're ready. Someone asked me once why I do this, why I push so hard, why I refuse to quit. I told them it's because you didn't raise a quitter, but that's not the whole truth. She took a breath. The truth is I do this because it's the only way I know how to keep you alive. Every Marine I train, every person I help, every mission I complete, it's like you're still here, still making a difference, your legacy continuing through me. Tears finally came. She didn't fight them. I miss you, Dad, every single day, but I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to be the Marine you always believed I could be. That's my promise to you. She stood, saluted the headstone with perfect precision, and walked away as the sun set over Arlington. The night before her first day as an instructor, Evangeline found Merrick in the recon compound office, reviewing training schedules. Couldn't sleep? He asked without looking up. Nervous. What if I can't teach them what they need to know? Merrick set down his paperwork, leaned back. Your father asked me the same thing before his first leadership position. You know what I told him? What? That the best leaders aren't the ones who have all the answers. They're the ones who care enough to make sure their Marines get home alive. You've got that in spades, kid. Evangeline sat across from him. When are you actually retiring? For real this time? Soon. My knees are telling me I'm 56, not 26. But I wanted to see you get settled first. Make sure you didn't need anything. I'll always need your guidance, Master Sergeant, even when you're not here. He pulled something from his desk drawer. Another challenge coin, his own, worn smooth from decades of carrying. Your father gave me his coin. Now I'm giving you mine, because family takes care of family, and you're family now. Not just Nathaniel's daughter, my family too. Evangeline took the coin, felt its weight. 2 coins now, 2 legacies. Thank you for everything, for keeping your promise to him, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. You always believed, Van. You just needed someone to remind you. He stood, placed a hand on her shoulder. Now go get some sleep. Those candidates won't train themselves. She left his office carrying 2 coins, 2 legacies, ready to build her own. 6 weeks later, she stood before a new class of recon candidates. 53 Marines who thought they were ready for Hell Week, who thought they knew what sacrifice meant. 2 women stood in the formation, young, nervous, watching Evangeline with a mixture of hope and fear. I'm Corporal Sutherland, she announced. I completed this course 18 months ago. I've deployed to Afghanistan with Recon Team Viper. I've done the job you're training for, and I'm here to make sure you're ready for it. She walked along the formation. Some of you are going to quit. That's statistical fact. This course breaks people. It's designed to. But for those who stay, who push through the pain and exhaustion and doubt, you will earn something nobody can take from you. The knowledge that you didn't quit when quitting was the easiest option. That you chose to be extraordinary when ordinary would have been acceptable. She stopped in front of the 2 female candidates. Some of you face additional challenges, additional scrutiny, additional pressure to prove you belong. That's not fair, but fair isn't relevant. What's relevant is whether you can do the job, whether you have the skill, the determination, and the heart to be a recon Marine. Gender doesn't determine that. Character does. She stepped back, addressed the full formation. My father was a Marine. He taught me that a Marine is defined by 3 things. Mission first. Never quit. Take care of your people. Those 3 principles will carry you through Hell Week, through combat, through everything this job throws at you. She paused. My name is Corporal Evangeline Sutherland. I'm a recon Marine, and I'm here to help you become the same. If you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to suffer, if you're willing to prove that you deserve to wear the badge. She looked at the bell mounted on its post nearby. That bell is always there, always available. Ring it and the pain stops. But so does the dream. Your choice. Every single day. Choose wisely. She dismissed them to begin training. As they dispersed, Master Sergeant Merrick appeared from the observation building. He'd been watching. "Your father would have been proud of that speech," he said. "You think?" "I know. I heard him give a similar one to a group of new lieutenants in Ramadi. Same message, same passion. You're more like him than you probably realize." They watched the new Marines begin their first evolution. Running. Always running. "The cycle continues," Merrick said. "You teach them. They teach the next generation. Knowledge and experience passed down. That's how we stay sharp, how we stay ready, and how we honor the ones who came before us." Exactly. Evangeline stood in the California sun, watching Marines train, and felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. This was where she belonged. Not in combat, though she'd go back when ordered, but here, teaching, leading, making sure the next generation was ready for whatever came. Her father's legacy lived on. Through her. Through every Marine she trained. Through every life she helped prepare and protect. And she never would. The sun climbed higher, the training continued, and Corporal Evangeline Sutherland, Navy Cross recipient, Recon Marine, and daughter of a hero, stood watch over the future of the Corps, right where she was meant to be. The story didn't end there. It never really ends for Marines. There would be more deployments, more challenges, more moments that tested her limits. But she faced them all with the same determination that had carried her through Hell Week. The same courage that had saved her team in Afghanistan. Because that's what Marines do. They endure, they adapt, they overcome, and they never, ever quit.